Hello and welcome to Mr. Muckleroy's presentation about SAT and SAT Prep class. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So I am Mr. Muckleroy. Most of my students end up calling me Mr. Muck. You can call me Mr. Muck too. This is my fourth year here at Stratford, where I've taught English 2, English 3, on-ramps rhetoric, and SAT and ACT prep all for multiple years, which I'm excited about because I'm passionate about all of those subjects. A little bit more about me. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, where I graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in Germanic linguistics, of all things. I've played baseball my whole life. I'm a third generation Astros fan. My grandfather began loving the Colt 45s as soon as they became a team in the 60s. He passed that passion on to my father, who passed it on to me. I've been following the Astros my whole life. Love the Astros. Go Astros. In high school, I started playing rugby, kind of strangely, but I did, and continued that all throughout college, and then became passionate enough about it to where I became a rugby referee and coach. So I love rugby too. For the past 11 or 12 years or so, I've also cultivated an interest in Formula One racing. So you can tell I'm a sports fan, but I have kind of niche sports interests, not just main sports like baseball, but I also love to follow rugby and Formula One. I have the McLaren logo there because they're my favorite team. So if you ever want to talk to me about Formula One or rugby, I can talk all day. So about SAT, ACT prep. I've been teaching the SAT and ACT in one form or another since about 2009. I was trained how to do it. So I'm not just doing it from the seat of my pants or off the cuff or anything like that. I have very specific strategies that I teach these students that are guaranteed to raise their scores. So that's kind of the crux of the course, is that we learn tips and tricks and strategies to approach these standardized tests so that when the students show up to the test, they have reliable test-taking strategies to do. They have things they can do on test day that they can rely on. That's the way I like to teach the test. We're not just going to memorize vocab. We're not just going to practice math. I'm going to show you how to take the SAT and how to take the ACT, because those are performative things. They're events and skills that students can actually get better at. So that's how this class works. We start with the SAT reading and we work our way all the way through the test. And then by the end of the semester, we apply those skills that we've learned to the ACT. My grading policy works thusly. I grade late work up to about a week late. Communication about this is key with me. If you are going to do something and turn it in late, you need to communicate with me about it. Why is it late? How are you going to turn it in? When are you going to turn it in? Send me an email, an It's Learning message, a remind message, or something like that. Whether this is a student or a parent, please reach out to me and communicate with me about late work. Now, this flexibility about late work does not extend to the last day of the 9 weeks, of course, because everything is chaos on that day, trying to get grades in, trying to get grade books finalized. And if you're coming to me trying to raise a 65 to a 70 or a 75 to an 80 on the last day of the 9 weeks because you're turning in all your late work, then it's just not going to work that way. On the left side of the screen, you can see that I count daily grades a single time in the gradebook. Quiz grades are weighted twice daily grades, so they just basically count as 2 daily grades, and tests and projects count as 3 daily grades. It's not super important for the students to understand that, but it just gives you an idea of how each grade is weighted in the gradebook. These are my classroom expectations. I have a classroom philosophy that I like to get the students on board with on the very first day of school about just causing problems and solving problems and our communication about all of that. But generally, my classroom expectations boil down to these 4 things. Be prompt, be on time. Habitually being late is going to cause a problem for class. It's going to be disruptive, and we'll have to have a conversation about it. Be prepared for class. Nowadays, students rely on Chromebooks. We rely on Chromebooks a lot. So, for example, not having a Chromebook charger or not having your Chromebook charged is not being prepared for class. Habitually having that problem is a problem. And so it's something that we're going to have a conversation about at some point. Of course, be polite. Honestly, this is not a huge problem in my classes. Students know how to be polite to each other. Most of my students are upperclassmen in this class. They're juniors, they're mature, they know how to be polite to each other. It's not really something I have an issue with at all. And then be productive. This one, unfortunately, especially in the age of cell phones and internet and YouTube and Netflix, is a little bit of an issue sometimes. This is not study hall. This is not lunch. This is an opportunity to do work. So if you're in this class, hopefully you're in this class because you want to raise your SAT score and you're here to do work. So when I give you time to do work, you're expected to actually be doing that work. If you're not doing the work, then you might be causing a problem and we might have to have a conversation about it. So those are kind of the 4 general expectations of the class, and then they apply to my overall classroom philosophy. My tutorial schedule goes like this. Spartan time by appointment. So if you're going to come to my Spartan time tutorial, please let me know ahead of time, because this year we have something to do almost every day during Spartan time and I may not be free. There's a little note there that asterisk says that I am reserving Wednesday Spartan times for my online learners. We do actually have online learners this year. For example, if you have to stay home because of COVID for 10 days or whatever it is, then I'm reserving my Wednesday Spartan time for online students. If you need to access that Zoom link, it is in It's Learning. Okay. So otherwise, Tuesdays, I'm here before school for about an hour, and Thursdays, I'm here after school for about an hour. So Tuesdays before, Thursdays after. If none of those times works for you, then you can make an appointment to come some other time. Now, please note that it says make an appointment. Don't just show up, because it might not work for me and we might have to reschedule. I mean, you can try to show up. You can try to just say, hey, can I work? You show up Wednesday after school. Hey, are you available for tutorials? Maybe, but probably not, especially if I haven't planned on it. So let's schedule ahead of time for that. Lastly, here's a few ways to get in touch with me. Matthew Muckleroy at springbrancisd.com is my email. My It's Learning platform also is a good way for students to get in touch with me. And then I gave the students a remind code that they can use to get in touch with me as well. So parents, email me anytime you have a question, a concern, a comment about the class. Please feel free to reach out. I know that during the course of the semester, something might come up. A student might tell you something. You might hear something different from me. So just please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, know that you can call the school, you can reach me through It's Learning, or the students can reach me through Remind. I am really looking forward to continuing to work with these students this year. I genuinely am passionate about raising students' SAT scores. I care about it. I teach this class because I love helping students raise their SAT score and helping them get into the colleges of their choice. So that being said, just know that I'm looking forward to continuing to help and getting to know all of these wonderful students. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.